We are live. What's up, everybody? Catch my video earlier. I had just came in from taking my kids to school, and you just kind of, think about things. And so I saw the video of Tariq Nasheed responding to all of those hateful black looking people that come to America and talk crap about black Americans, the grinding for a green card. And in that video, I was pretty clear in my position that I felt like Tariq was being very specific about who that video was for. And I even heard him say things like, this does not apply to all of our Caribbean brothers and sisters. So I think, even in the conversations from foundational Black Americans about delineation, I still think that there is that, sense of uniting with people from the diaspora and just, being, sort of culturally immersed with one another without owning each other's cultural identity, I suppose. But these conversations are very interesting to me, and they have been interesting to me. And I feel like I've actually been more educated about, the different thought tanks of black looking people in America. I've definitely expanded my experience and mindsets because, it's funny when you are just kind of living day to day, right? You sort of think that there is this consensus among all black looking people because that's how you exist. You're sort of in your little thought tank, in your little bubble. So you sort of perceive, black people experiencing and thinking things the same way because we're kind of over projected that we do have that type of herd mentality. And, it was, I think since 2020, where I feel like I've had my racial awakening to just the different ideologies in America. For me, it was like, wow, Black people truly aren't a monolith, just like no other group in this nation are monolithic. And when people say that, people just, they kind of conclude, okay, there's different voices in the Black community, but they never really kind of dive deep into what that statement means beyond um, black people not thinking the same way. So I have been exploring my sort of, just exploring the identity questions, exploring what they mean to me, how I want to operate, around some of these questions and this rhetoric. And again, I feel like for me, it's better not to be in a herd of mentality, but it is also very useful to understand what the herds that have the mentalities think, right? So as I've discovered it, right, the simplest way that most people break Black Americans up is, or Black looking people in America up, is through the political parties, right? And through there, you will find that the conversations, the grievances, the things that are really important to Black people, they become more political issues versus social issues. And I feel like over the years, there's also been this conflation of political versus social as well. But like when I look at it, it's like, beyond the political ideological think tanks that Black Americans may incline themselves to be a part of, there's the social think tanks are, to me, more valuable to evaluate when we hear the conversation of Blacks not being a monolith. It's like, well, what does that mean? And I think that some white individuals will make their decision as to what that mean by lumping everybody up together. And that's easy. That has been the easiest thing for, some individuals who lead this charge in some of these social engineering campaigns, is to just lump everybody up together. So when you hear white nationalist type people say, oh, well, you guys are all the N words, right? But then they would want to delineate between them and other white looking people, right? You see the contradiction. So everybody in this nation is delineating themselves, even amongst Hispanics. They're delineating themselves because of the cultural ancestry history that many of them are afforded to know, right? That's the one thing that, Black Americans, for the most part, we have to go and rediscover is, who we were beyond this nation, right? And other people could say, oh, my family comes from Ireland. My family comes from Scotland. My family comes from Brazil. Everybody can trace their ancestry back with conviction. And it seems like there's been this mission to make sure that Black Americans don't do the same way. So we're even fighting for just our identity, how to identify ourselves and our culture. That's why I said that Black Americans, and I'm glad this is happening, we need to take control over our narratives because other groups have control over their narrative. Other groups have control over their narrative. And even if there's not complete consensus, right, there's still a couple of codes for their group that everyone seems to be on code with. And Black Americans, we definitely have to just have a consistent code. So no matter what the think tank of Black person that you are in America, right, there's still this universal code of the community that even the diverse think tanks can agree needs to be there. So, obviously FBAs have been the topic for a lot of people since Kamala Harris has been drafted to be the Democratic nominee, right? Because again, the Democrats and people keep talking about people are shilling for Trump. It's like, no, people are speaking on straight observations when they say, and these are patterns, that the Democrats leverage racial identity and they play the race cards with different types of candidates so that they can appeal to different social groups in America, right? And this race card for the Democrats have played out. And I've been saying this. It like the last time that they could effectively use the race card was with Barack Obama. And we were in the middle of a housing crisis. So they didn't really even have to demonize America with any type of, political season lynchings of Black people. They didn't have to do none of that because we had the housing crisis. All they had to do was prop Barack Obama, right? And they do this. But since 2020, and I think with George Floyd, what they really did was overplay the race card. And if anybody has been following my content for a couple of years now, I've said this, that since 2020, they have been overplaying the race card. Whoever was doing all the planning in 2020 with all that ongoing demonization and leveraging and weaponizing and exploiting of Black people and struggles and pains just so that you can make people make a decision and inflame that, people are on game to that now, and it's interesting because for some reason, Black women seems to be the most attached to the Democratic plantationary mindset because honestly, we do get the most benefits, right? We do have the luxury of actually being able to just, what they say, get a white daddy, right? And if a Black woman can stand behind a white man, she's definitely going to get more success than a Black man. And that's just word 100, right? It's just for the Democrats, Black women are easier to deal with. Black women are easier to deal with. Many of them are emotional by inclination, right? And, some of them are struggle junkies. So they're leverageable for the Democrats. That's why you see more of allegiance to Democrats and from the Black community between Black men and female, from Black women versus the Black men. And Black men have been getting it. They've been getting it, right? They have been punked and bullied on so many different levels in this particular political cycle, to the point where the Democrats had to come up with a fringe organization called White Guys for Kamala, right? And it was kind of like a shade to black men, like, look, even white guys are supporting Kamala Harris. Why aren't you guys, right? And so, hang on for 1 second. I am like missing my coffee. Okay. Oops. Sorry. Look at this. This is why I don't do live streams. I gotta set up all this crap, and it's like, I respect the commitment of the regular YouTuber people. I just don't really want to commit to this like this. I just like to talk and share my opinions about things. But anyways, getting back. So all of these thought tanks in America, right? And oh, this is what we're talking about. I want to leave this point because I have some videos that I want to share. So black men in this political cycle have been getting it terribly. They have been bullied, demonized, shamed into making a voting decision that favors Kamala Harris. And the bullying tactics is actually backfiring on the Democrats because it's actually making more men not want to vote for black men, not want to vote for Kamala Harris. So when you see that they have like 21% about black men in favor of Trump, I expect that it's going to increase. I expect that the favorability of Trump is going to increase the more the Democrats are employing bullying tactics, pulling out their black gatekeepers on black men to shame them into voting for Kamala Harris. I'm pretty sure YouTube is censoring this because we know them folks want her to win because, again, they want a puppet, right? Trump is not the puppet type, right? And this is why a lot of people, like even with Jermaine Dupri, they sent their black gatekeepers out on him. Roland Martin was on him for just speaking truth, speaking truth and facts. It's like a backwash or whatever. But anyways, I want you to listen to this other black gatekeeper, right? And I caught this on X, and he's talking about Phil Scott. And if you don't know Phil Scott, he's one of those news correspondents on the African Diaspora channel on YouTube. And I definitely encourage people to like that channel, people of all colors to like Phil's channel, because I feel like no matter what color you are, it is always good to understand the position of everybody. And black men come with a lot of common sense. And I think sometimes their common sense is almost a threat to folks. But this black gatekeeper, needed to warn black people about Phil Scott and Tariq Nasheed, right? Now, this is what a Democrat shill sounds like if you don't know.
So I've been getting a lot of feedback about the video I posted a couple of days ago that includes a critique of this man, Phil Scott, who's one of the correspondents on the Africa Diaspora Network. He is one of the primary individuals spreading disinformation within the African American community.
Notice he's using the Democrat words, spreading disinformation, right? These people got to be on the echo chamber of conversation.
This channel is full of lies. It promotes Donald Trump talking points. and it also spreads a lot of anti-immigrant sentiment. Folks, we really have to be careful and pay attention to the people who claim to be a part of the community, but really are acting as agents, provocateur, for Donald Trump and his associates and allies. Don't be fooled. Not all skin folk are kinfolk. Don't pay attention to
typical
the
line. Typical line they sell to Black folks. Not all skin folk are kinfolk. Now, I want to stop this video real quick because what he's saying is that Phil Scott and Tariq Nasheed are actually shills for Donald Trump. But really, they're just conservative-minded, independent-minded Black men, right? And they're more like, I'm not going to make a plantationary decision, right? I'm not going to make a plantationary decision because the Democrats told us to. And most Black men were even reasonable, even when they were narrating, painting Donald Trump as a racist. Most Black men, even the real OGs, they was like, wait a minute. Now, we've never really known Trump as a racist. And even, what's up, Tiff? I watched Phil's channel. He was pushing to vote for Biden last election. Now he's pushing Trump or independent. They need to realize that Kamala's skin folk ain't kinfolk either. Absolutely. No, they're not. Like, I mean, this dude don't even know how contradictory he sound right now, talking about not all skin folk is kinfolk. And you're sitting up there shilling for a woman who's not our kinfolk. She's Jamaican's kinfolk. But, you know, off that, you know, Black men with a conservative and independent disposition are constantly demonized. Constantly demonized. And I think what is scarier for the Democratic establishment is when they start hearing Black women get on board with how these Black men are talking. Like, Democrats aren't scrambling just for Black men. There's a lot of Black women who are agreeing with these men, and we're following these brothers, right? We're following these brothers, right? And they hate that. And even Black gatekeepers, they're like, we're going to lose our tokens and our coins if we don't get these Black people to fall in line. So Phil Scott and Tariq Nasheed, they are threats to these Democratic machines. Because why do you think they killed all of our leaders? Why do you think they eventually have all of our leaders killed? Because they want to be the voice, the curation, the narration of Black America, and they want to use these little birds, these puppets, these parrots, these Black-looking folks and Black folks. Let's keep it a buck. Because even Black Americans can specialize in selling their own people out for self-interest. It's a lot of Black Americans running around with reparations. We just don't know. What's up? How you doing? Don, what's going on, my friend? But let's just keep it real, though. There's a lot of Black Americans running around with reparations because they sold us out. They sold us out. And, you know, I was looking at, and anybody to me, and I've said this before, any Black looking person that pushes Black America as a whole to make any single one voting decision should not be trusted. You should not be trusted because Black Americans should be neutral. Black Americans should be politically neutral at all times. And if you are inclined to vote, you should be voting based off of policies, not politics. And brothers like Phil Scott and Tariq Nasheed, at least they're going to break down some things that these other folks are not going to. They're going to be like, look over here, look over there. Look, I went to an HBCU, trust me. It's like, man, we done trusting y'all, right? Y'all done sit up there doing a monkey dance about Democratic masters because HBCUs are funded by white folks. Okay, keep it a buck. Keep it a buck. Just keep it all the way 100, right? So this brother is out here discrediting these other brothers, this Democratic shill. He is out on a mic. And if Carlton Banks had a gay lover, this dude would be it. Because, I mean, you can't tell me this dude is not a beta male.
Donald Trump. And the goal is to suppress the Black vote or trick Black people into voting for someone who doesn't have our best interest at heart.
So Right. And Kamala Harris has our best interest at heart, and she's been devastating the economy alongside Joe Biden's senile ass for since 2020. Y'all make it make sense. Y'all make it make sense. Y'all, I mean, these same shills will have Black Americans demonizing another Black American for asking a freaking question and expecting a logical answer. What Jermaine Dupri raised in terms of his inquiry is very legitimate, and Kamala Harris cannot be so sheltered as to not provide an answer. Why weren't you doing your job? They literally ghosted her and had Jill Biden doing the job of Kamala Harris. I don't know if you guys remember when that Russian-Ukraine stuff broke out, but y'all look at it. She was cackling so much, they had Jill Biden on her job. I was wondering why Jill Biden was doing so many things that Kamala Harris should have been doing. But Jermaine Dupri brought it on home for us, y'all. Y'all got to keep it real. He brought it on home. She couldn't because she's a puppet. And if you look at my last video, you'll know her puppet masters don't want her looking elevated, right? They don't want her to just do what we tell you to do. That's why the woman can't interview with conviction. She can't speak with conviction unless they're Democratic, repetitive talking points, because those are not her thoughts. And you can't speak with conviction if those are not your thoughts. So, you know, this bug dancing brother, right, had his own, he wanted to warn Black Americans that be careful about Tariq Nasheed and Phil Scott, right, because they're peddling misinformation according to him. But, you know, here's a logical Black brother that I want y'all to hear. These are, I mean, when you want to talk about intelligence, right, I can pull a technician who's been in the game for like 17 years. I know this brother, right, on 7 Mile in Detroit. He is like never went to a college, but whoever his grandfather was, like the man must have been wise as hell, because the dude is smart. He's wise. Like he's like one of these hyper conscious person, never went to a college, but he could break you off some stuff like, dang. And you realize you don't need to go to any of these institutions to have common sense, to look at the world and make sense of things. And this is what I do appreciate brothers like Tariq Nasheed and Phil Scott doing. And, you know, there was a brother, Amazing Lucas, and he had a live stream basically calling Tariq Nasheed a race hustler, right? And, you know, do I believe that Tariq Nasheed is a race hustler? Absolutely. I do. I do believe that Tariq Nasheed is a race hustler, but he's the better kind. He's the better kind of race hustler, because he's not the race hustler that demonizes the Black community. He's not the race hustler that likes to maintain keeping the struggle alive for the Black community. Tariq, to me, elevates Black people to higher consciousness, and I personally believe he encourages Black people just not to take anything. We are not some of these tethers who have fled. We are going to fight. We are going to demand, because we have been here too long in this country to accept anything else, right? That's the kind of race hustler Tariq Nasheed is. And if that is a bad thing for these people, I don't care, but I'll take that type of race hustler, because at least he's hustling on the right talking points for Black Americans to be considering, in my opinion, right? So I caught this. This was about 12 days ago. And this is Phil Scott on the African Diaspora channel. And he got this brother, and I want you to hear what this brother is saying, because he feels like Black men are being demonized. And this brother articulates so damn well. Like, I just want to give him a hug and he's beautiful. He's just a fine brother anyways, but let me get into it.
I've seen a lot of Black celebrities and media personalities and so-called journalists insult the intelligence of Black men because they don't want to vote for Kamala Harris. They are actively out here villainizing Black men for not wanting to vote for Kamala Harris. And I've said it before, and I will say it again. They think they own us. They think they own our hope. They want us to believe that we have some sort of obligation to them, that when it's right for them, we should play identity politics and vote for her because she's black. And now they're pushing a narrative that we're dumb, that we're uneducated, we're misinformed. We don't know what the going on. And the crazy thing about it is,
a black man cannot be dumb in the white man's education system. They run the education system. So if you are turning out dumb black people just universally, you talk about 50 million people in this country, and you want to conclude that they're all low IQ and dumb, something's wrong with your system, and which is all the more reason why black people need their own education systems. And to all the black people, we're like, we need to teach black history in school. You're a dummy. You're a fool. Why would you want these people teaching your kids? Right? The system, depending on which school district you're in, predominantly, there are not a lot of black people. I was actually very excited this year that my 5th grader has a black teacher. I'm like, I cannot wait to partner with her, right? Because I feel like I have a shot of somebody actually wanting to educate my child without their bigotry, right? Like, black people should really suspend that. We want these structures teaching our kids about their tribal lessons. And these are coming from the Democrats. These Democratic-minded people, because they are the gatekeepers of indoctrination of black folks in America. They really are. But let's continue, let this morsel talk.
It's the complete opposite. The people who are running away from Kamala Harris are the people who are informing themselves, who are researching, that actually know what the going on, and just not letting themselves be told any guy. That's the reality of the situation. So, you know, I just was, it's astonishing to me to see it, though, where you have these people, they sending out these black women and these bootlicking men, right? The Van Joneses, the Bakari Sellers, the Roland Martins, right? The D.L. Hugleys, even Plies, and it's a whole bunch of them who are trying to shame black men for thinking for themselves, because that's all they're doing. We're thinking for ourselves. They're just like when a slave owner didn't want you to learn how to read. Because once you learn how to read, you have knowledge, and knowledge is power.
Amen.
And that's the problem. No, watch MSNBC. Don't do no thinking. Let us tell you what to think. Huh? Don't you want to see a black woman president? Don't you want to see somebody who belonged to a sorority? Don't you want to see a black woman get sworn in by a black woman on Martin Luther King's birthday? A whole bunch of token that don't mean a goddamn thing.
Stuff.
That's what they want us to vote for. Y'all out your mother minds, man. I was listening to Ricky Smiley. Ricky Smiley talking about, in regards to black men, they not doing the right research. What? Who the f talking to, Ricky Smiley? They not doing the right
They're
research.
The ones who's living the consequences mostly of these policies.
We're not doing the right research. We're supposed to listen to you. That's the right research. And we're going to just keep seeing more and more of this. Joy Reid telling black people, you're going to look weird. What? In the 6th grade? Don't nobody give a f looking weird.
One of the weirdest black anchors on TV talking about somebody looking weird. Like she knows she needed to be in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory as something.
We worrying about the issues, the economy, our communities, our children, our futures. What the f you talking about looking weird? See, that's for weak-minded people. And they just gonna.
And he's right too. When these people can't get what they want out of you, they automatically go to insults, right? The weak-minded will always insult you when they cannot sway you to be in their herd of mentality. This brother is just on point.
It's going to keep going, bro. You get all the narratives is going to keep going. Sellout, traitor, you hate black women and all that cool shit. Bakari and Van Jones up on CNN crying and boo-hooing. Don't nobody give a too smart to fall for that, man. So y'all can keep rolling that shit. We gonna keep standing 10 toes down. The fuck out of here.
Tell him.
Love the black man.
What you saying?
Until he wants to think for himself, until he wants to form his own opinion, until he stops seeing himself as a victim, and then he becomes the enemy. And I'm watching this happen in real time. It's happening right now. And all you got to do is keep your eyes open, pay attention, and you can see it clear as day. This shit real. So I'm saying all that to say, if you an actor, a rapper, a comedian, or anything else, you're not going to dictate our decision by calling us names and trying to make us feel bad.
He is a leader. This dude
All
is
right,
a
ladies and
leader. I
gentlemen.
love him. And thank you, Phil Scott, African Diaspora, for sharing that. That was just the realest thing ever. Like, that should be like a very viral moment. And it should be a moment that Democrats remember. So every time they want to sit there and try to shame Black men, they're going to be the ones looking stupid, because these men are doing their research. They are living the policies that you guys are executing. And people like Plies, these Black buck dancers who, like I said, a lot of these HBCUs, these people had to bow to a Greek deity, not an African deity, a Greek one. I don't listen to people who claim to be of God and you have bowed to a Greek deity. You can't tell me nothing, you double talking demon. And that's what a lot of these Black gatekeepers are. They are double talking demons. You want to wear your HBCU as a badge of honor and then talk about Jesus and all this stuff. You're a double talking demon. You done already bowed to a Greek god that the white man helped you sort of continue the traditions, because your schools wouldn't even exist without the funding of investment firms. Black people do not keep HBCUs alive. Non-Black money do that. And that's why they're leverageable. That's why they're leverageable. So this brother, I wanted to just give him his voice again on this platform, just because he made some really great points, right? And this is the difference between an independent thinking Black man, right? Now, he's talking about why he's independent, why he's making this decision, why he doesn't want to be punked into making decisions. He's not spreading fear or fervor. He's just saying, don't punk me, don't lower my intelligence, because I don't want to be on your team of decision making. Now, this is what a bug dancer sounds like. So we got to know the difference, right? Now, we just heard that brother, right? It's a real Black man, alpha in his mindset, clearly, right? He's not going to be punked into making voting decisions. He's not about to sit up here and tell other Black men to do it either. Like, they don't get a benefit from bug dancing for this, folks. So why should they, right? This is what a bug dancer sounds like.
I'm getting a lot of feedback about the video I posted a couple of days ago that includes a critique of this man, Phil Scott, who's one of the correspondents on the Africa Diaspora Network. He is one of the primary individuals spreading disinformation within the African American community.
So, you know, they got to use a Black man. They got to use Black people on Black people, right? This is how it's always been. When they needed to kill Malcolm X, right, they used a Black looking man to do that, even though it was that funded the death of Malcolm X, just like all the other ones, right? They love killing our leaders because they don't want Black people to be empowered. They need these narratives, these herd mentalities to continue on so that they can control us, enslave us in these cute little creative ways, right? And like I said, Black people need to be politically neutral. Like, everybody should deserve the Black vote. If you want the Black vote in America, you need to deserve it, right? You look at all these other communities, right? And they're satisfied. They're satisfied. Many of them have gotten penance and even penance for something that the United States wasn't directly even involved with. So we got to be real about this, right? Black Americans, we deserve entitlements. I don't care who don't think that. When you look at the coordination, see, when I look at reparations, I look at it from this idea. Do Black American freedmen deserve reparations? Yes. Will reparations happen for Black American freedmen? No. It should have happened in the 80s. It really should have happened in the 80s, because we weren't $35 trillion in debt in the 80s like we are now. Right now, they have dug this nation so far in a hole that we are collapsing economically. We really are not in a position to give out entitlements. And even if you're in a mindset that the United States can just keep printing money, the monetary system really doesn't work the way you think it works, right? If everybody could just pull money from thin air, like the Federal Reserve, right? They do it and nobody would be broke, right? But money doesn't come out of thin air. Money is valuated by production and how it's moving and transacting, right? You got to understand this. I don't think, and I've had to adjust my mindset about this because there's so many things that I have been side note considerations, but I do think that Black Americans are due reparations, but not just for slavery. I think that there has been a coordinated effort to defame and suppress Black Americans. And I think that defamation of cultural character is also something that should be on the table as well. There has been coordinated efforts through the cinema and even some of and the reason why you can't really, it's kind of hard to get that is because they're using these Black looking people to carry out these projections, right? Sexyy Red, like, come on, y'all. Like, I think even Sexyy Red knows she's a disease to the Black community, but she's getting paid to be a disease. So why should she care? And when you're pulling people from the poverty line to betray their people, it's easier, right? We're always going to have Black ops because they can pull desperate people, tokenize them, elevate these people, cosplay them as Black, and even if they are Black, cosplay them as the most defiled image of a Black person imaginable. And so there's no mystery why, as opposed to Sexyy Red naming her new lip gloss line something that actually made sense to the bots that actually charted, like Pound Town, right? That's a great name for a lipstick brand or a lip gloss brand, right? Some of the other names to her songs could have been, her lipstick names. No, she wanted to go the most disgusting route using ST, y'all know what it is, to name, like, so when you're putting on your lipstick and you're like, oh, that's a cute shade, what is it, gonorrhea? And that's the name of the lip gloss. It's like, it's just, you're a loser if you buy it. Like, sometimes Black people should not support Black people. Sometimes Black people should not support Black people if it's supporting them in something that is harmful to the image of the community. We really need to get like some of these Asians and some of these Jews, because they're not going to allow their people to be projected anyways. Jews have a label. As soon as you start talking about their people in any way that they're just in their feelings about it, it's like you're anti-Semitic. We need anti-Black to be just as strong as anti-Semitic. And anytime somebody push out something that is defined as anti-Black, and we got to have a clear definition of what anti-Black is, right? Anti-Black is anything that is demeaning to the Black community that is overly projected to the public, right? That could be one of the many definitions of it. But we should have 1,000 definitions for what anti-Black is. So anytime somebody feels compelled to narrate Black people, right, we can see if it fits the criteria, and if it doesn't, we'll reject it, and they can't make money off of us. There's too many people making money off of us that look like us, but mostly funded by those who don't look like us, and they're narrating us in ways that are demeaning. They maintain ideas of inferiority, right? And, they really don't do anything for Black elevation. So I enjoy hearing everybody's perspective, but I do like hearing independent perspectives. And I really appreciated that brother before and his perspective. I don't appreciate this guy from Voices of Our Ancestors channel because, these are people who, and I was listening to, what's her name? That Corvell, is it? Right, from the ADOS movement, right? And she was in that live stream with Uncle Luke, right? And they were very, very disrespectful to her. They were very, very disrespectful to her. And I think she was making real logical points, but I think the point that she really should have made home, because they were like, how do you determine who is a foundational Black American, right? Well, then, I mean, to me, you go and you trace back to the point where the United States was actually keeping birth records, right? And you look at the generations of people that came out of those birth records, right? I mean, that is to me the most accurate way to do it. So if your family, if you're like a first or second or third generation American, 9 times out of 10, you're not a descendant of slave, right? And even if you come together, I don't even think the cutoff even for the kids, right? Because again, there's a lot of replacement going on in this country. And a lot of times they are using these immigrants as a new black. Because again, black people are not going to maintain being treated like slaves, and they need people like that. So that's where the black looking immigrants come in, and they do it with great American pride, and they hate us for not doing it and not being willing to do it because we feel like we deserve more in this country. And we do. And we do. So a lot of people are in their feelings about things like these conversations. And it's so funny because even the white supremacists, you know, they can resonate with some of they can resonate with the brother that we were playing before a lot of times because they want to see black men empowered like that. They want to see black men not taking somebody, demeaning them as a man. And that's why conservatives, like I said, they attract black men more than the Democrats. You look at the elevation on the Republican side versus the Democratic side, you're not going to see no squad on the Republican side of black women. You're more than likely going to see a squad of black men because they attract black men. They elevate black men in their party, right? And if they didn't, we really wouldn't be checking for Tim Scott. We really wouldn't be checking for Byron Donalds. Who's the other brother too? Ben Carson from out here in Detroit, right? And Ben Carson, to me, just because, and this is how we are conditioned to discredit the accomplishments of foundational black Americans, because Ben Carson, no matter what side of the political spectrum you are on, he should be your Black history hero for one of your kids. Ben Carson should be on the Black American history heroes, right? But there's a lot of people who have a problem with Ben Carson just because he has a conservative position, right? So we are trained to discredit our own people. So getting back to the black looking people thought tanks, to summarize, because I don't want to go a whole hour, but just to summarize this, you have different camps of thought when it comes to black looking people in America. You have your immigrants, right? And even within your immigrant segment of America, right, you have immigrants who can respect the struggle. They African American or Black Americans, they understand that they would not be here without us, right? And they have no ill will towards us, right? But there's that other side of the immigrant population, like your Myron Gaines and some of these other people who try to take on a white supremacist mindset about black people, right? And so they placate to white supremacist talking points about black people because it makes them safe, right? And what these people figured out is that there's always going to be that white looking segment of America that just want to hear black people talking ill about black people. And so these immigrant black looking people can be leveraged to do that, right? And again, even some black people can be leveraged to do that, like your Candace Owenses, right? So there's a lot of black face looking people who can be leveraged to talk about black people, but they're not foundationals. They don't come from the same struggles. They are beneficiaries of the struggles of black people, right? And I think where black people are at right now is we can't keep having these beneficiaries speaking on our behalf because they look like us, because culturally we're different. Many of y'all can't stand us. So no, you can't talk on our behalf, right? And within the foundational Black American space, right, you have your FBAs, You have your conservative buck dancer blacks. And not all of the conservative blacks are buck dancers, but you see the ones, your Brandon Tatums, your Candace Owens, those are your buck dancing blacks that, they're more like Black people are low IQ, and they try to curate that on their little podcasts. So they're going to show you the ghetto blacks. They're going to show you the criminal blacks. They're going to show you the low IQ blacks. And then what they do is they want to blanket all blacks as that so that they can appease their white nationalist daddies, right? So that's what they do. That's one school of Black thought. Then you got your Democrat blacks, who they are all about keeping the struggle alive. And the Democratic blacks have such a stronghold because they're very coordinated institutionally. This is where your HBCUs and all of these private fraternal Masonic-esque organizations that they dangle in front of Black people as some badge of relevancy. And here's the thing, you will get a lot of opportunities in Satan's world being a part of these fraternal orders. You absolutely will. I can't say the HBCU folks are the brokest blacks in society. No, they're the richest ones, but they're the richest blacks for a reason, because a lot of them have been busy selling Black folks out. I mean, that's basically what it is. HBCU blacks are absolutely dominant for a reason. They do better off than many blacks, right? And they try to make it the draw is you go to HBCU, you're going to do better than everyone. But no, you're pledging, right? Like a lot of times these people, they get into these Greek fraternities, and it's not just going to the HBCU. You got to go to distance in these HBCUs. You got to actually pledge in something. That's why every time they show you a Black politician, they're going to wear their, everything about their HBCU experience on their chest. They're going to wear their degrees. They're going to wear the school. They're going to wear the fraternity or sorority that they went to on their chest. That is their badge of credibility to be the next level race hustler or Black gatekeeper, right? So they do better than every other Black in America because they're busy selling out and being gatekeepers, right? They really are. Have you ever been around, like out here in Michigan, we have our Black elites, and I have had to mingle with them a few times, and I don't really particularly care for Black elite type people, just because I think just socially we're not the same, because a lot of these people use their school and their degree as a badge of honor, but many of them truly aren't logical people. And I think sometimes people think of an education as being the same equivalency as intelligence, and it's just not true. The brother that was in the car speaking, he just looked like your normal average guy, and he spoke way more intelligent than this dude who looked like he came from one of those institutions, because this dude is, the other guy is buck dancing on what the Democrats want him to talk about. So he's raising panic and fear because that's what they do. The other brother is more conscious, and he's raising more awareness, and he's being more, his conversation is one of more conviction. And it's just, when you start making these measurements of people in society, you will realize that some of these people running around with their degrees as their badges of honor to be credible, and trustworthy, they're dumber than a sack of diapers. And I will say it until the cows come home. Some of these people are actually the stupidest people in society, but because of nepotism, right? And I mean, nepotism is in all institutions, right? I went to a school and there was this very slow white guy, right? And he was in a couple of classes with mine because he was in the same media program as I was doing journalism at the time. And bro was just dumb. Like, I mean, literally they asked him like, how do you white balance, right? And he's like, it's just like, he was just not the sharpest tool in the shed. But he was able to pass those classes because his father was a big donor to the school. His father was a big donor to the school. And so that's how nepotism works on so many different institutional levels. And even in the HBU space, there's a lot of nepotism. So a lot of these people that we believe are running around, with these badges of credibility because they went to this school and that school and this person was able to leverage them and this and that or whatever. A lot of these people are not very smart people. They're just not. And this has nothing to do with their Blackness and everything to do with who they are individually, right? Because a lot of people want to narrate Black people as being low IQ. And if you follow my content, you should learn a thing or two about that, right? Just engaging in my content, for example. But anyways, you guys have a wonderful, wonderful day. I'm trying to absorb these last 2 weeks of my freedom before I have to get back to the old work hustle. I've been enjoying my break. And I've been doing a lot of thinking about just even my career path in this world and this particular climate, And, I have zero faith in America. I think a lot of people are lying about the conditions of America. I think that I feel sorry for people in this nation more times than not. Just because, there is just a lot of manipulating factors in this world, and they're coming from so-called trustworthy, credible sources. And like for me, I don't want to lie or manipulate people. Like that's just not my thing. And sometimes, I'm more like I'm going to be real with people that work with me no matter what about what's happening, and they're going to make their own decisions. I don't force people into making decisions about anything, but this world is just, I would say any predictive factors that one could have in America. I would say, the ability to actually, you can actually predict how things are going to pan out based off of the patterns of things, but you definitely cannot run on old patterns and charts of how things have, in cycles gone, because a lot of this stuff is just, it's head scratching. I don't know what the government is doing. And it's just, it will, again, vote for the best of the worst, because, to me, some of these policies that both of them are talking about, they're still not quite hitting on the problem. And I don't think that a lot of Americans realize that neither one of these candidates are really hitting on the problem. So we will see what happens. And again, we are all victims of the recourse of whoever is selected. So we just got to be smart. Like the brother said, knowledge is power. So empower yourself as much as you possibly can and and make the right moves. Just make the right moves. So you guys have a wonderful day. Big ups to all of the people who are independent enough in their disposition, all the independent Americans, no matter what color you are, right? I've been digging into the racial conversations, but this content is definitely for any sensible person who just want to understand things from a more pragmatic lens, right? Definitely hit the like button, subscribe to this content. I'm not trying to inflame, I'm trying to help raise consciousness. And I think in this world of inflammatory rhetoric and herd mentality, I think we need that more than anything. So you guys have a wonderful day, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye.